Welcome to my Connecting Lab review. Here we're doing one of the last labs, except for the Skills Assessment Lab in Chapter 7, which happens to be Chapter 7's Lab 7328, Configuring GRE over IPsec, which is supposed to be one of the optional labs, and I don't know why that was really wordy, but it was. Anywho, so I have this portion off my screen that I can refer back to. So I actually want to focus on parts 1 and 2 first. I'm also going to make sure I have a notepad document open, which I do right there. So again, it is off my screen, but it is still there. Pinging will not work. The tunnels are not created. So the ping fails because there's also no route for that specific traffic. So step 1 and 2, we know they're going to fail. Same thing for step 3. We know it's going to fail. That's because, again, there's no route. So that way we can jump right into part 2, which happens to be, well, they're also not really labeled. R2. All right, R1's on the top. Crud. Okay, let's go ahead and enable show version. You'll notice that our security has been disabled. So we actually need to go ahead and activate it. So config T. I'm going to paste that in there. License boot module. Let's go ahead and expand that out. So license boot module, technology package security. Yes. All right, from there, and reload. And we're going to do the same thing for the other two. Yes. And reload. Since all of them are getting tunnels, we're going to do it for all of them. Enable. Yes. And reload. All right, so we're going to go back to R1. It should be up by now, and it is. So all of them are done. We can actually verify by doing show version, and you'll see that we have the evaluation portion of that license, and we are good to go on to part 3. You're going to notice part 3 is fairly long. All right, so what I want to go ahead and do is I actually want to move that to the side. I want to get my notepad involved. I want to make sure my access control list is there. I'm going to repeat the same ones for R3 as well. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and configure the crypto map keys for phase 1. Again, I'm going to go ahead and remove all of this because I actually want to keep reusing this. We're going to be using the default crypto key of Cisco. we're going to be generating 2 peer keys. And then we're going to configure the phase 2 portion, just like we've done in previous labs. Except I want to be a little bit more. Okay, one last thing we're going to do is, I'm going to get rid of all of this still. One last thing is we need to go ahead and apply it to the appropriate interface, which that's what we're going to do. All right, so what I did was I want to pre-do this so that I already know that I'm having to repeat steps 1 through 4 on both router 2 and router 3. So by doing this in Notepad, I'm able to modify it and copy and paste it way easier. So that's what I'm planning on doing. So I'm going to copy all of it. I'm going to get into R1. And there we go. Read through it, make sure there are no errors, and there were no errors. So we're going to modify this for R2 just to make sure. Now, one thing I forgot was we actually need another ACL, because reading through these steps, I forgot to do step 1B. Okay, so now we should be good. So modify this so that it will conform to R2 as required. So I'm actually going to move it over here. The access control list will only actually need 1. We need 2 on R1 because it has 1 from R2 and 1 from R3. So if we're doing R2, we only need just R1. And this is going to be connecting back to 172.16.0.0 with the appropriate subnet mask, which happens to be 003. And that's going to be going to, this needs to be modified for our 10 network, 10.0.0.0 with the wildcard 0.255.255.255. All right, next phase, we're doing map 101. We're keeping AES. We're doing our pre-shared key. We're doing 5. We're doing our key Cisco, except here, we only need 1 key because, again, R2 to R1. On R1, we needed 2 because R1 is connecting to both R2 and R3. But in this, we only need 1. 209.165.118.2. IPsec transform set. We're calling this one R2 set. We're setting up AES with SHA. That's right. We're doing our R2 map. 101 still our ACL. And again, we're setting up our single peer. Because we don't need 2 peers. 209.165.118. We're doing our 2 set. We're matching addresses for 101. We are doing our interface 0000. All right, and there we go. And we should be able to hop on R2, paste it in. Oh. Make sure we didn't fat finger anything, which I happen to fat finger the ACL. I forgot a 0. All right, and everything looks good there. So now we're going to modify this for R3. I'm actually going to keep it on this side. Here we're doing 172.16.4. And again, the inverse mask, we're going to the same, because this will be for R3 to R1, so I'm using the addresses that are there. 10.00, that's all good. Policy 101, we're doing AES, pre-shared key. Our address here is going to remain the same, because again, we're going through that serial interface. R3, set R3, R2 map, and I think we are done with R3. Paste it in, and we are good. Now, I'm going to move that off to the side. We've done all of this. We've done all of this. Now let's go ahead and move on to part 4. So enter into the configuration. We're going to go ahead and set up our tunnel info. Int tunnel 0. We actually want to go ahead and do its IP address. We actually want to go ahead and set our source and our destination tunnels. We want to make sure that our tunnel mode is set appropriately as well. And we're going to exit when we're done. We're going to do this to R1. And we are going to read through it one more time. We're going to make the necessary changes. So that we can paste this on R3. 192.168.0.6 as outlined there. Serial 00. Destination. That's going to change. And we have not added the route just yet, so we're going to leave that the way it is. R3. We're going to go ahead and paste that. I did get a peculiar message, so policy, pre-shared key, there's that, R3, R3 set, tunnel. All right, so we did get a message about the map. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and ignore it and go back to it in a second. 192.168.0.2. Again, now we're doing the connection between R2 and R1. We're going to go ahead and verify the destination IP, and that's correct. Hop on R2. Go and paste it, and there we go. Get my text document out of there. Crypto set, crypto map. All right, so I'm going to hop back on R3. When we did all of this, yeah, because I'm looking at that error right there, and it's saying crypto map did not exist. Oh, that's because we did it here as R2 map. No. And new crypto map will be remain disabled until the pure and valid access lists have been configured, which that's fine. Just to make sure, I'm just going to go ahead and retype it in because that right there I fat fingered. Oh, it did not like that. That's because I need to get rid of that portion. Some versions were allowed to do that. Some versions were not allowed to do that. That's what happens when you try to go too quick. Okay, I will get appreciate he already exists. That's fine. But the map took, that was the important part. So we've done this, we've done this, we've done all of this. Last step is part 4. Step 3, we need to go ahead and verify we have the appropriate routes. So I'm going to do this on our first IP route 172.16.0.0, and I will send that to 192.168.0.2 IP route 172.16.4.0 252. I will send that to 168.192. Fat finger that again. 0.6. Because again, R1 has a connection between R1 and R2 and R1 to R3, hence the 2 default routes. On R2, we just need one IP IP route, we're going to make this 10.0.0.0, send to 192.168.0.1, IP route 10.0.0.0, space 255.0.0.0, 192.168.0.10. I'm lazy, so I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste this. This one should be the .5. All right. So if everything is correct, from server 1, we should be able to ping both laptop 2 and PC 3. I don't want any of that. Oh, command prompt. There we go. Ping 172.16.0.2. First one should fail. And they should go through, and it does. Let's try it one more time. Alright, so tunnel's up between R1 and R2. Now let's verify the tunnel is up between R1 and R3. 172.16.4.2. First one should time out, maybe the second one also, but as long as it was configured correctly, okay, so look like because of my fat finger, the tunnel is not up. So now let's go ahead, top on R3. Show run. Let's go ahead. We're going to double check all of this. Verify the appropriate access list. Let's set at the very beginning. The appropriate package is installed. We have the appropriate policy. We have the appropriate key. Policy 101. We have the key for 209.165.1182. We have the appropriate peer. We have the appropriate set. Let's double check on serial 000. We have our R3 mapping. On our tunnel, we have our source and our destination. Oh, one thing we don't have is it did not save it. Inner config T and tunnel 0. It did not set our tunnel mode GRE IP. It did accept our route, so that's good. Let's go back to our server. Let's try pinging. All right, so the tunnel is still. Oh, one of the fun parts is when you're going through here and you're going too quickly and you make a mistake, and you don't think about it until afterwards and nothing works. So I'm going to go back to step 1F. On R1, we need to create a tunnel 1. Because here we created our tunnel 0, which is a tunnel between R1 and R2, but we never bothered to set up tunnel 0. Config T, what we want to do is int tunnel 1. We want to secure an IP address. We want tunnel source to be 0, 0. Tunnel destination, we want that to be 64.102.46.2. Tunnel mode, GRE IP. Let's try again. Yeah, I forgot to do the tunnel portion, so obviously the tunnel had no way of creating because we created it on R3, but we never finished that portion on R1. So without that tunnel being configured on both ends, nothing really can happen. Have to love troubleshooting when you're going too fast. So actually that's this lab in a nutshell. So if you had the same issue that I had, double check that you have tunnel interface, tunnel 0 and tunnel 1 on R1, because without those, it doesn't really work. Let's go ahead and check results to verify. All right, here we go, assessment items. On R2, it's showing incorrect ACL. So let's go ahead, let's go back and let's fix that on R2. That's the only thing without a green check mark. Show run. So that is the ACL that I put in there. Let's go config T. Let's go ahead and remove it. Access list 101, permit IP 172.16.00. 3.255. I wasn't paying attention on R2. There we go. 255.255.252.0. I did it assuming it was a /30. Now that being applied, the other access control list would work. It's just it would actually have, you wouldn't have all the correct addresses. We narrowed it down to very few select addresses, not the thousands it's actually needed. So with that, let's go ahead and check results again. There we go. 38 out of 38, all green check marks. This is always an interesting lab because you got to be more systematic. And I made a few mistakes going along the way just because I was in a hurry. Take your time, don't rush. You should be able to get through this. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.